Good evening, everyone. My name is Wendy Herb, and on behalf of Gwen, Elizabeth, and myself, we would like to welcome you to this year's full benefit Destination Excellence and our first ever virtual fundraiser. We look forward to spending this evening with you in support of Rush while we enjoy some excellent wine, music, and friendship. I hope you had a chance to listen to the Patrick Donnelly Quartet, an amazing jazz band. They will be playing again after the wine tasting, so be sure to stick around and enjoy their music while you're sipping your favorite glass of wine. A big thank you to Huron for providing tonight's musical entertainment. As you know, the Women's Board hosts a full benefit each year to celebrate and raise funds for all the wonderful programs and services Rush provides for their patients and the surrounding communities. Your support is more critical than ever this year, and the Women's Board is so grateful for your generosity in helping us support Rush. We are especially grateful for our presenting sponsor, Hindman Auctions, and all of our corporate sponsors, including the Sidley Austin Foundation, the Garlands of Barrington, Draper and Kramer, JP Morgan Chase, ITW, Wintrust, Hadley, Jones Lang LaSalle, MLP Consulting, and Rothschilds Barry and Myers. We would like to thank everyone who made a contribution in support of this event or purchased a ticket to be with us this evening. It truly means a great deal to all of us who put so much effort into making this evening possible. We have something a little different this year. It's called a chance to win. This is provided by the Autobahn Country Club, Team Stradale, and Lisa Roberts Jewelry. If you simply share your email address with the Women's Board, you'll be entered for a chance to win one of two fabulous prizes: a pair of 4-drop detachable Amazonite earrings set in 18-karat gold, or a day at the Autobahn Country Club driving the amazing radical SR3 race car in the morning and go-karting with your family in the afternoon. Additional information about these fantastic prizes and instructions on how to submit your email address to the Women's Board can be found in your host's gift bag. Next, we are going to view a special video about the Women's Board Transformation Fund for the Rush Cancer Center, where we will learn about one patient's story and the Cancer Center's outstanding care. Thank you for listening. Thank you for helping us make Rush excellent, and we hope you enjoy your evening. Thank you.
The coronavirus has clearly changed the way that we're practicing medicine, and cancer cells don't shelter in place, right? We've had to continue to provide cancer care during this entire time because it's an essential service and it's life-saving services for patients with cancer. When we originally put our Transformation Fund request together, COVID-19 was not part of the original proposal, but it's clear that this is a problem that isn't going away anytime soon.
Rush University Medical Center took care of thousands of patients with COVID-19. While lives were saved, this came at a significant cost.
The Women's Board Transformation Fund is an essential part of our ability to transform the Rush University Cancer Center at this historic time when we're building a new ambulatory building for the Cancer Center. In order to be successful in occupying a new space, we also have to change our operations to do that. We are able to adapt, such as when we have a global pandemic like coronavirus, to the daily changes that are needed, that we have a culture of hundreds of problem solvers, and that we are able to focus our effort on providing excellence in patient experience and minimizing the time to first treatment so that we can achieve the best outcomes, containing costs, and making sure that we provide safe and effective, compassionate care to everyone who comes to our door.
I originally found out about Rush Bone Marrow Center after I was diagnosed over at the myeloma clinic at Stroger. And so the doctor there immediately when he told me that I had myeloma, also in the same breath told me basically that Rush had this outstanding program, and after my initial treatment, I could come here to have a transplant. I would go for my infusions once a week, and that helped me to process through the system so I could get the bone marrow transplant.
During the past few months of this extraordinary time, we've had many patients who've said that they were initially concerned about coming to the medical center to get their care. When they finally got here and learned of all the things we were doing to help keep them safe, they had the confidence to move forward.
I came back again after they had scheduled me for the transplant, and I asked the doctor, my bone marrow specialist, I said, do I really need this? You know, this is a very delicate time during COVID. The protocol and procedures that they adhered to every time, you know, to come into the building, sometimes it looked like I was the only person here. And that's how far apart they would schedule appointments for people.
Many times that's the journey of a cancer patient as it is. Knowing that you're in safe hands, knowing that there's a team behind you, that we've got your back, and that we're going to come up with a plan and execute on that to keep you healthy and safe.
That experience at Rush during COVID meant a lot to me because my life was on the line. How things are looking for me today after the stem cells, almost like, did I dream this? Because I have been doing amazing. I have, my doctor said to me one day when I came for the appointment, he said, Ms. Dyer, he said, you know, I hated I had to call you in for this boring appointment, but you're doing fabulous. And I said, you really like telling me that, don't you? And I can say that with your help, you know, they can continue to help people like me.
On behalf of Rush University Medical Center, I'd like to thank all of you for your incredible charitable donations and support of Rush over this time.
I want to thank the Women's Board for all of their ongoing generosity. Your gift for the Transformation Fund will continue to support the Cancer Center for years to come as we create hundreds of new problem solvers to be able to move forward our vision of a destination cancer center for Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you to all donors for your help. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for watching our video. I know that you are as inspired and moved as we are by the patients and excellent care provided at Rush. We are very excited to be supporting the Transformation Fund for the Rush University Cancer Center this year. With your help, Rush will meet its goal to become the preeminent destination for cancer care locally and nationally. We have all been touched by cancer, and this is a meaningful and powerful way to help patients receive essential care. To support the Transformation Fund and all of the initiatives of the Women's Board, I encourage you to visit thewomensboard.org or mail us a giving envelope, which you will find in the gift bag this evening. Thank you so much for your support. Now I have the pleasure of introducing to you Todd Hess and Veronica Hastings, the wine experts behind H2 Vino, a supplier of fine wines and spirits. Veronica and Todd have a combined 38 years of experience in the industry, and they will now lead us through an excellent tasting of 3 fine wines. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Stay safe, and remember, Rush is destination excellence.
Good evening. I'm Veronica Hastings, and this is my husband and business partner, Todd Hess. We're here to taste 3 wines tonight. At this point, please pour out all your wines and be ready to start tasting.
So H2 Vino is a company that Veronica and I started in 2006 with another couple. And we are an importer and wholesaler of really great wines in the state of Illinois. We sell to a lot of the best retail areas in the state. And prior to COVID-19, we had a robust restaurant distribution company going, but that's a little bit different right now. My background is that I worked as a sommelier for Michael Foley back in the late 1990s. Sorry, 1980s. That's where I met Veronica. And after that, I went to go work for Sam's Wine and Spirits and ran their wine department from 1993 to 2006.
So I worked in the sale end for the longest time, and I worked nationally. And the last 2 decades, I focused on import and distribution of wines while we started our company, H2 Vino. At this point, we're going to start tasting, and I'm going to show you one of my favorite tasting tricks because it's really helpful. First of all, you see people swirling their glass, and that really has a meaning. You coat the sides of the glass to let the bouquet really release, and it's easier to smell. The other important thing that I love to do when I taste is to breathe in with both my nose and my mouth, and your mouth will be open. So I'm going to demonstrate that now, swirling the glass. And so it's a great way to smell every little nuance of the wonderful wine. The first wine tonight that we're going to taste, the bottle of Egly.
Sure.
The first wine we're tasting this evening.
We're keeping it cold.
Yes, and there's a good reason to keep it cold, is the Grand Cru. Egly Ourier is the name of the producer, and it's champagne, and it's a Brit tradition. What tradition means in this labeling is it's the house style, and that's what many producers will make, is a house style. They'll also make vintage wines. This is the non-vintage, so it's the wine that's representing the house. Now, what makes champagne champagne? There's 3 key factors. The first one is that it comes from the region in France called Champagne, and any other sparkling wine that's made in the world cannot be called champagne. Definitely in the EU, this is a law. In America, some people still do, but your more high class and quality driven producers recognize that, and they call it sparkling wine in America. The second thing is it needs to be made from one of the 3 grapes allowed in Champagne. Chardonnay, 1 or more, it can be a combination. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. Pinot Meunier is usually used as a blending grape. Now, that grape is called Meunier because underneath the leaf is a white, downy, fuzzy texture. And Meunier in French means miller, as in baker. So anyway, now the other important thing about Egly is you can look in the back of your bottle, and it says the time on the yeast, and ours says 54 months. And then it says date of disgorgement. And that means when the crown cap, like a Coca-Cola bottle, was replaced with the real cap. And that leads us to the very last thing about what makes champagne champagne. And it has to be going through its secondary fermentation in this bottle, the bottle you're going to drink it from, the bottle you're going to buy. And what that does is a secondary fermentation happens because it's aging on those yeasts. So this is 54 months of aging on yeast. And this is one of the unique characters about Egly. He was one of the first people to start aging champagne on the yeast much longer than was the normal tradition for the area. So let's taste a little bit. When you age your wine longer on the yeast, especially for champagne, the yeast also creates the bubbles. So the yeast is creating complexity and the bubbles, but these bubbles are finer, creamier, smoother. And then you start getting the flavors of, to me, I always get a nice lemony tart beginning, and then it rounds out with like apple and cherry flavors. And that's kind of the cherry is coming a little bit from the Pinot Noir. Chardonnay's more appley. And then there's that smooth, toasty finish. And that's, again, aging on the lees. The other really, really important thing about Egly Ourier, and again, we can pick up our bottle. This man is a grower champagne producer. And what that means, you can look really small print, look on the way bottom, it says RM. What RM means is récoltant manipulant. In French, that means he's the person who made the harvest. And that's the key thing. In Champagne, the tradition of the region for the longest time was for growers to sell their grapes to the big houses like Veuve Clicquot, Dom Perignon, and your vineyards were rated. The villages themselves were rated. And they were Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and then other ratings beneath that, but these big houses aren't going to buy anything other than the Grand Cru or the Premier Cru. And again, tonight we're tasting Grand Cru. 90+% of Egley's vineyards are Grand Cru, which is another reason that makes this such a special champagne. Again, when you taste it, you want to taste it over a period of time. So while I'm talking, maybe you're thinking of some of the things that I said. And I just love how it starts so spritzy and citrusy, and then it just gets really wonderful and creamy. And that's where we can talk about pairing wine with food. There's two major ways that you can go, and they're the kind of easiest ways to ease into it. And that is with like goes with like. So crisp and lemony, you might want something in the dish like that. But then it's also creamy. So you can go with the creamy cheeses. I love creamy cheeses. A little hard cheese like a Parmesan might be fun too, the saltiness playing off of the creaminess in this. Fish, shellfish. The recipe card had the wonderful crab meat with mushrooms, and this is something that can stand up to the umami of mushroom and then the crab meat and the cream. And other things I would think, sometimes people say, let's try champagne throughout a meal. This you would want to do with more fish or maybe roasted chicken for the richness of it. But I personally am always on a campaign to have people just drink champagne to drink champagne instead of the celebration or mom's birthday or the graduation. You know, it really is a great way to start an evening, and it's also really can carry through the first couple courses of a fine meal if you wanted it to. Do we have anything else to add for Egley?
The guy's a fanatic in the vineyard.
Yeah.
He has older vines. In Champagne, you often pull your vines up after they're 25 years old.
Yeah.
And Egley keeps his 40, 45 years. And remember, Champagne's up north, so it's really cold. So it's once they get into their older age, they're not producing a lot of grapes, but they're producing really good quality grapes.
Right.
So that I think also has a lot to do with why Egley is just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should I start talking about Chardonnay?
I think so.
Okay. Well, Chardonnay is it's what 30% of the champagne that Veronica is about to drink. Oh, I'm sorry, she's drinking the Chardonnay
I'm
now.
trying the Chardonnay.
So the Egley is 70% Pinot Noir, 30% Chardonnay. We're going to move on to 100% Chardonnay, and that's from this great California winery called Rhys, RHYS. And this is the property of a software developer, software developer who made a lot of money. And as opposed to just going out and buying grapes, like a lot of them do, he went and bought specific vineyard areas, both in the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is down kind of just a bit south of San Francisco, over by the Venerable Ridge Winery. Actually, you can see Ridge from where most of his vineyards are, but this is actually coming from Mendocino. So it's up north, and it's on the very coastal part of the Pacific where it's cold all the time. The coolness is really important here because it is great for Chardonnay to have cool nights and cool days because that prolongs the ripening of the Chardonnay grape. It's also really good for Pinot Noir, and these guys make great Pinot too, but we're not going to talk about that tonight.
But a quick aside, Anderson Valley is where all the California producers grow their grapes for champagne. So there's a small thread here leading into this.
Right. So you might be wondering, okay, Chardonnay, we all know Chardonnay. Why? Why taste Chardonnay? Well, because it's a great grape. Chardonnay is beautiful because it reflects where it's grown really well. It also reflects its a bit of what the winemaker wants to do with it. So this is a wine that sees about 20% new French oak. And one of you emailed questions about why is French oak important. So we'll digress a bit here. And this will probably be one of many digressions. And French oak has a very tight grain. So you don't get a lot of flavor from French oak like you would with American oak, which has a very wide grain, or Russian oak, which has kind of a grain that's a little bit more similar to French oak, but it is an excellent storage vessel for wine. It doesn't allow a lot of outside influences like the oxygen that happens. And it's just a really kind of slightly caramely, slightly creamy character to the wine, especially Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. But that's why winemakers love French oak. The reason why winery owners don't like French oak is it's really expensive. So
$700 a barrel.
Oh no, it's more than that. It's like $1,000
Oh,
a
now
barrel
it's around
now. And a
$1,000.
barrel only holds 25 cases of wine. So that's $4 a bottle for the privilege of using French oak on your bottle of wine. So yeah, we were talking about a $10.99 Chardonnay at Trader Joe's. It's not going to be in new French oak. Anyhow, so we talked a little bit about the Anderson Valley. The other important thing with the owner of Reese is that the soil is so important. And he picked this area. It's called the Bear Wallow Vineyard. It's about 10, 15 miles from the Pacific coast. And it's on this very poor soil. There's only about 10 to 25 inches of topsoil over this incredible volcanic quartz and limestone base. And it shows in the wine. I mean, you take this wine and smell it, and you get a little bit of the toastiness from the oak and all that. And that's important. It's very pleasing. But you also get this kind of mineral component that no one is really sure where that comes from. They've pretty much decided that the minerals aren't shooting up through the rootstock into the grapes. That was the theory, 25 years ago, but that's been debunked. But something happens, and with a lot of things with wine, we don't know exactly what that is. The viticulture here, so their first vintage was 2004. The viticulture here is a mix of biodynamic farming and organic farming. And this is actually something that we didn't discuss with Egli, but that's kind of what Egli was doing too. And it's also kind of what the next wine will be. All three of these wines you're having tonight are from domains. In Champagne, they're called grower champagnes. In still wines from California, they're called, basically they're called estate grown fruit. The grower, the estate has control over every aspect of the production of this wine. They control the growing of the fruit. They control what happens in the vineyard. They control what happens in the winery. And they also make a decision about when it's going to be released. And that's why these wines are so good. Now, just because you have complete control over the production, you could be really lazy and make really bad wine.
You wouldn't do it with such great materials.
Right, trust me, these people don't. So anyhow, it's I think just a really fun, delicious expression of what you can do with California wine. And to me, this wine smells and tastes like really good white Burgundy. And I'm not just being a shill for the owner of this winery. I kind of am, but because we do sell this. But I think that, that's what he set out to do. And I'm really excited by this because I think that he's largely accomplished it. So we're going to move on and talk about the pressing of the grapes. With most grapes, they get about 75 cases per ton of grapes.
This is very low yield, which is very important.
Right. With Reese, they get 50 cases per ton of grapes because they won't overly press. And this really helps, I think, produce this very intense flavor and richness. And the other strange thing about Reese is that it's in a cold area. It takes a long time for the wines to ferment to dryness. It takes 12 months. Most French Burgundy it takes 5 months. Most California Chardonnay takes 3 months. It's a very, very extraordinary production here, and we're really happy that you've had a chance to try it. I hope you like it as much as I do, as we do, and we're really excited to share these wines with you. The last thing is, Elysia is an early drinking style of wine for Ries. They do produce some single vineyards. They're very prized. They're done in very, very small quantities. If you can see them on wine lists, once you get to go back to restaurants, it's well worth seeking them out. They're delicious, and they're very long aged. This is meant to be in a more forward fruit style, but if you want to sock these away for 5 years or more, you'll be really happy. To talk about the
So again, we'll go back to food and wine pairings. And with this wine, it's interesting because you could do something wonderful like. You could do a little bit of buttery, creamy pasta or buttery, creamy sauce for white fish, lobster, crab, all those things I'm kind of thinking. Or you can go for the contrasting. And what's interesting about the menu card that has the cucumber with pesto and feta, there's some contrast there with the brightness of cucumbers and the butteriness of this, but the pesto adds a kind of umami, rich, silky flavor to the dish. And this wine picks up aspects of the butteriness and the nuttiness in the pesto. I would also just, again, have this wine just simply prepared crab, Dungeness crab legs with butter on it, or the same thing with lobster. To me, this is also a great white wine to start with. Salads can be a little hard because of the dressing, but if you did something with a honey vinaigrette, it gets a little richer, fuller. And then, this wine is just delicious. I kind of call it also like the aperitif wine or the cocktail wine if you weren't going to start with champagne.
And I completely forgot to show you the bottle.
But you have the bottles in front of you.
Oh, of course. Duh. Never mind. Okay.
So usually we're doing this live with people in the room saying things to us. So
right.
You're our live and not live audience tonight.
Right. So we're going to move on to White Rock. And White Rock has a really great history. So in the 1870s, there was a winery here, and it flourished. It went out of business, I think, in the around 1900, and then Prohibition brought everything to a grinding halt. Kind of.
Sacramental wine was okay.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of places produced sacramental wine.
Yes, there was a lot of sacramental
whether they needed
wine.
it or not.
And actually, it's kind of funny. I saw an advertisement for a Chicago Chinese restaurant in the Loop from 1933, and they were advertising wine and beer, and it was before Prohibition. So we've always been pretty wet here. Anyway, White Rock, an early winery. It was brought back from its, it was resurrected basically in the 1970s by the Van den Driesche family, academics from South America, from Argentina. Yes, and they do. Their sons have taken over. They're incredibly committed to the production. This is a winery that is located on a patch of land, a large patch of land in the southern part of the Stag's Leap district. So it's just north of the town of Napa on the Stag's Leap Drive, or what's that called? I'm spacing it out right now. Anyway, it's not Highway 29, it's the other one. It's the one on to the west. But they are in an area that historically has been fairly cool because it's close to the bay. And for a long time, their wines had kind of a lean character. But since they bought the property in the late 1970s, I think they started making the wine and started producing wine with the 1983 vintage. It might have been a little bit earlier. They have never done anything except for organic viticulture there. And the reason is that the vineyard actually, so in the base of the vineyard, you have their water retention pond. Where they get their water, and that's the water that they use to drink for their house after it's been filtered. the family didn't want to use chemicals on the vineyards that were around this water retention pond because they thought, oh, this is probably not a very good idea to have chemicals running into our drinking water. So they've always been organic, and they are a really well-maintained winery. I didn't mention with Reese and Veronica didn't mention with Egley, but all of these wineries are basically models of grower champagne. Everything is done, but the other thing is that everything is hand harvested.
Hand harvested.
It's really important. Machines can do a pretty good job of harvesting grapes, but humans do a better job now. 20 years from now, who knows? But right now, we're still a little bit better than
It goes
a
in with
machine.
selecting the best grapes and taking out the ones, and you just know after a while. There's a history of families who come and pick, and they know how to pick the grapes. But it is important to really emphasize that all of these wineries are a model of family-owned, family-operated, hand-harvested, by hand, artisanal.
Yeah.
And White Rock, it gets its name because the soil has a lot of calcium in it for that region, and it's a lot, or chalk rather, and it's more white than other areas.
Actually, it's a really bizarre thing. The soil is white, and it's volcanic.
Oh, not chalk.
No, it's not. I mean, in Burgundy, it'd be chalk, but here it's volcanic. No, it's all right. Sorry, she wasn't supposed to talk about that.
Cut me off.
No, no, you should probably have some more. Anyway, check out this color. It's gorgeous.
On the screen, it looks really dense, but again,
Yeah.
we're going to swirl it. And this is with red wines, especially, you really want to swirl your wine, coat the glass, and really breathe in.
So this wine is 45% new French oak. It's a blend of 4 different varieties: Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. Sorry, the L is going by.
These are the traditional grapes allowed in Bordeaux, and there were originally 5, and the one that's missing is Malbec. We all know what Malbec is doing now.
Oh yeah, Malbec's doing a very good job in Argentina. But it's not quite as well suited for production in California. They used to put the percentages of the different varieties on the label. All we know about this particular vintage is that it is 76% Cabernet Sauvignon because it has to be to put it on the label. But they've always used Petit Verdot, and this is just a beautiful wine. They aged this in barrel for 22 months, and then it goes into this cave system. And they built the cave in 1987. And for a long time, they claimed to be the ones who had the earliest cave in Napa Valley in California. And the cave aging is important because you lose your, sorry.
Oxidation. You're trying to say the oxidation of the
Yeah,
wine?
right. Caves are very temperature controlled, and they're also very humid, so you don't lose anything through evaporation. And so the cave actually paid for itself pretty quickly, they found out, because they weren't having to top off their barrels because they were losing, juice to through the wood.
Maybe let's explain that better. When barrels age, when he says top off, it evaporates. We call that oxidation. And all fine wines go around with newer wine and top it off. This is a 2014, and we should really discuss the vintage and aging of wine, or 2015.
We shouldn't talk about the vintage.
Okay.
Forget that. But anyway, the cave can hold 45,000 bottles of wine, and they keep the wine in there for 18 months to 2 years before they release. And that means that the wine that you're enjoying right now is much more ready to drink than a lot of its competitors, which would be 2017 vintage or 2018 vintage on the market. So, I mean, this wine, put it aside and it'll be fine. But it's pretty nice right now, I think.
A lot of
quite enjoying
wineries are sort of pressing. You talked about pressing earlier. A lot of wineries are pressing more gently so that you still have the tannins to age the wine, but it's not so hard or like a crisp or what is that called? When you taste a really tannic wine, your mouth feels dry. That's really heavy tannins. And all these grapes that go into Cabernet Sauvignon, they have really thick skins and really high tannins. That's why they age forever. I find in general, I love California cabs around 17 years of age. So whatever that vintage is, start drinking it, take a bottle at 10 years and try it. Take a bottle, every year and try it. If you bought a case, that's the fun thing to do. And, or don't have to wait those 17 years. If you taste the wine and you think, my God, I love how this tastes, drink the rest of it. Don't save it. Don't mess around. Just drink the rest of it.
It may not get better. It might.
But if you love how it tastes then and there.
Yeah, it might get worse.
Yeah,
And
it can happen.
You need to talk about some food pairings for this.
Yeah, I also just want to talk about, there's the Cabernet Franc grape in this wine. And I think right now, some of the aroma, we get really a little bit of a violet, powdery, floral aroma. We also get a bit of this like herbal thing going on, positive herbal. And this is what just makes wine so wonderful, so complex, and so enjoyable. And that leads me to the food and wine pairings for this. This is something where we're going to want to play it in the background with food. We're going to want a nice steak, a nice lamb chop with pretty simple herbs, rosemary, oregano, thyme, something like that. We're not going to want to get fancy. One thing that could be really fun with this is like a creamy mushroom sauce. And why do I say creamy mushroom sauce? That's another important thing about food and wine pairing is that the cream is protein, the meat obviously is protein, and protein will soften the really intense tannins. If you have a really tannic wine, you might want to think about that. So that's how they play together beautifully and just make a nice experience when you're having a steak or a lamb chop and then you drink the red wine. So this is what I would love with this in terms of food. A lot of people love cheese and red wine, and I happen to too. And this one, I think, a hard cheese, Manchego, Parmigiano. You could do a creamy cheese. You might even want to try a blue cheese. It could be interesting or it could fall on its face, but that's the fun thing too about food and wine pairing is try things. People love chocolate with wine. And because I talked a bit about that floral aspect and that kind of spicy herbal thing going on, this is why I think this wine is actually could be really cool with chocolate. And I think almost like a nice truffle that has maybe some black cherry and chocolate be perfect with this wine. Really kind of fun. And mousse, like a chocolate mousse, yum. So that's pretty much what we have tonight for these wines. And we've had some audience questions.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm going to read the questions and Todd is going to answer most of them.
maybe.
And this is the most timely question we had. What are the effects of the wildfires on wineries?
Well, so that's it's a really good question because the effect of the wildfires on the wineries is that they burn the wineries down and they destroy lots of produced wine. They destroy wine in barrel.
The wineries themselves, the structures themselves.
Yeah, so they burn them and it's bad. Not that many have been destroyed in this wildfire. It was a much bigger problem in 2017. The effect of the wildfires, though, on the vineyards is quite different. And vineyards are fairly robust, and it's very difficult for them to burn. I mean, they can, certainly, but they are fairly wet, moist areas, and they're fairly impervious to burning. So they're certainly, in 2017, we saw some vineyards burn, but most of them didn't. The other problem is that the smoke that's the main problem. The smoke gets on the skins of the grapes and you can't get it off. And I read something on the Always Reliable Facebook that said that Chateau Montelena has decided not to produce Cabernet in the 2020 vintage because they have too much smoke taint. And I believe they're also not producing Zinfandel.
So that what happens is it depends when harvest is. In 2017, when those terrible fires happened, most wineries had just finished harvest. And again, harvest was a little bit later this year. So that's why more people are suffering smoke taint right now. This is what we're hearing just recently from several of our vintners is the smoke taint issue.
Right. So I think that it's going to be a very challenging vintage, 2020, especially for the later harvested red wine grapes. Fortunately, it was a pretty warm year in Napa. So a lot of the grapes had been harvested before the fires, but not all.
We have another timely question. What is the effect of climate change on wine production? This one's huge.
Yes, funny you should ask that. So going back to Champagne, they are having earlier and earlier harvests. And one of the things about Champagne is that they need high acid in their grapes to be able to pull the sparkling wine process off. And what's happening is you're having much warmer days, and more importantly, you're having much warmer nights. And so the grapes are ripening much faster, and they're having to harvest much earlier, sometimes at the beginning of August. So
when it was traditionally September, mid-September.
right. And that's a fairly cool area of France. In Burgundy, the winters are much warmer, and so they're having trouble with their cellars because they were kind of counting on the cooler temperatures during the winter to slow down some of the processes that make Burgundy really great. The growers are very concerned because, I mean, we obviously weren't there this year. We were there last year, and they were almost to a grower saying, I don't know what to do. My grapes, my wines that are supposed to be aging here are accelerating their aging profile, and I don't know that this is going to be a good thing. So
they're learning as they go. It's truly something they have historically had no records on it or no situations to what's happening now.
Right. And in California, the Reese Chardonnay from the Anderson Valley, that hasn't been affected too much by climate change because you are basically right by the Pacific, and it's cold all the time. It's just miserable. Unless you like cold weather. But Napa, they're having intense heat spikes. We're not talking about the effect of the wildfires, but it has been very, very different. They're harvesting much earlier. The grapes that were successful there, the areas that were successful there are becoming less successful. And they're trying to find areas that are higher elevation because it's a little bit cooler.
The Germans love it right now because traditionally they haven't been able to make a rich, full, wonderful red wine. Their red wines traditionally have been medium bodied at best and not as lush. And now they're actually making the wines they've always wanted to make. So for some people it's great, and for some people it's problematic. What makes wine age? What makes wines change as they age?
Well, you know what? We don't know.
The oxidation I talked about earlier.
Oxidation, certainly. So the tannins in the wine melt, and
mellow out, round out.
Kind of balances out a little bit. But honestly, wine is a tremendously complex subject, and it's chemically very complex. And people are studying it. UC Davis is doing a really good job of this. But the problem is that it's too chemically complex to really have to be able to answer this question. And another question was, well, could you make wine in a laboratory? And the answer is not yet. There are thousands of different flavor compounds that make up wine, some in very barely discernible amounts, and others that are, pretty noticeable. But it's not like you're making Coca-Cola. You are trying to duplicate a very complex beverage that is delicious, but it just can't be done in a lab yet.
That's actually one of my favorite lines that I always say is, it's not Coca-Cola. And especially when we're talking about wines that we are tonight that are organically farmed and then produced with minimal intervention in the winery, it's a living organism in the bottle that you receive, and every bottle is different. Bottle variation is a good thing. If any of these guys wanted to make wine like Coca-Cola, they could in a heartbeat. It's a formula. And that's the thing, is why can't you make it in a laboratory? Because you don't get the unique area, as Todd was talking about, the cellars in Burgundy. They're too warm, so it's not helpful for their aging right now. But in a perfect cellar situation, there's less oxidation and it ages nicely in the barrel, and then you bottle it and it continues to age in the bottle. Different things happen. And that leads us to one of the other great questions, is what is the function of the cork? Is it better than a screw cap? Well, the function of the cork and the screw cap is to seal the wine so it doesn't get tainted. And when you're going to age for a long time, you want your wine horizontal and you want the wine in contact with the cork because it keeps it as a perfect seal. Now, for short-term usage, screw caps are wonderful. It cuts down on what's called cork taint in the wine. And that's a very different subject. It can be a cork that had a problem and it would taint a whole box or 2 or 3 or 4 of the wine that was corked with that same cork. And you never know this till you pull the wine. And the cork taint is a flavor and an aroma of, like, I call it wet cardboard, wet dog, wet basement. It's a little bit moldy and it's unpleasant. And you can smell it and you can really taste it. And it's just, you don't really taste the fruit. So for short-term use and most white wines and things you don't want to age, everyone loves the screw cap in the business, totally. And the traditional name, or the elegant name for it, is the Stelvin closure. We have another question which ties into all of this, and that's, how do you age wine?
Well, the best way, and we're about to let you go back to enjoying your evening, the best way is a cool, dark cellar on its side. But wine's kind of not as delicate as we all want to say. So if you don't have those conditions, you probably shouldn't think about aging your wine for a long time. But don't put it on top of your refrigerator.
No.
Don't put it in your kitchen. Like a basement is great. Minor swings in temperature, not sudden swings in temperature, are better.
And consistent temperature.
Yeah.
People say 58, super cellar crazy people say 58. I would say anywhere from 68 to 58, but with the emphasis on consistency of temperature. You don't want the swings.
And I know some of you out there are sticklers to the 58. And
good thing.
If you can do it, do it. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so if you want to buy any of these wines, on the back of one of the cards is my email address. It's todd@h2vino.com. You can just get in touch with me. We'll work it out. Remember that 15% of any purchase that you make over the next week or so through this will go back to Rush as a rebate, and it will help them raise money. So you win, you get good wine. They win, they get money.
And now I think you should fill those glasses with a little more champagne, and we'd like to take a toast to Rush. Thank you so much for your participation for this important event. It's been fun tasting with you, and we hope you really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Todd and Veronica, for guiding us through that amazing wine tasting. And thank you to all of our sponsors, contributors, and guests for their generosity. Our support of Rush's educational, research, and community engagement programs, including the Women's Board Transformational Fund for the Rush University Cancer Center, is possible only because of you. If you would like to learn more about the Women's Board or make a contribution, please look in your goodie bag and you will find more information about our project and how to support Rush. Just a reminder, you have until Sunday to submit your name and email for chance to win one of 2 fabulous prizes.
We hope you are enjoying your evening with us. Now is the time to sit back, enjoy a glass of your favorite wine, and listen to the Patrick Donnelly Quartet's Jazz Favorites. Thank you all. Enjoy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us this evening in support of Rush. My name is Patrick Donnelly. This is the Patrick Donnelly Quartet. I hope you have been enjoying your wine, and here's some jazz music for you to enjoy as well. Thanks again for joining us this evening in support of Rush. Hope you enjoyed the wine and the jazz. We are going to play one more for you. This has been the Patrick Donnelly Quartet. Have a great night.